Hi, my name is Ujwal. I'm the co-founder and CEO of MotivBase. And this is the first in a series of training videos. So it's going to cover some of the basics and help you get started and get grounded in the results that MotivBase provides and help you navigate through some of the key outcomes of the research as well as managing some of the search features. So it's a short video. If you're looking for something a little more detailed where we're dealing with multiple contexts, multiple topics, even things like filtering out certain demographics, things like that, please refer to some of the subsequent videos for some of that more specific information. All right, let's get started here. I'll run a simple search for a topic like probiotics. And what you'll see straight away is the autocomplete will give you the best match for what you're searching for. Obviously, the autocomplete is based on the way consumers discuss topics in culture, and we're really at the mercy of culture itself and the way consumers talk about what they talk about. So in this case, there was a clear topic that matched exactly what I was looking for. I run the search. The first thing I look at is the relationships. Relationships is important because it helps you understand two things. One is the context of your search the right one. In this case, I look at topics like gut flora, elimination, diet, digestive enzymes, gut health. Clearly, I know I'm searching for the right thing, as in MotivBase has understood what is it that I'm searching for. The second thing that relationships is really handy is as a tool to provide some added ideas, additional ideas on other topics or related topics that we might want to search for if you want to run comparisons and things like that. Fundamentally, though, what you need to understand is that these relationships refer to the top 100 topics that consumers associate with probiotics. So in essence, this is the sort of the closest portion of the topic universe that surrounds probiotics. And this is something that's really important to understand. The second thing you'll see is a little graph on the right side. All that graph is really doing is providing you a sense of whether there is any seasonality in the topic you're exploring. That's really all the purpose of that graph really is. There's deliberately a y-axis eliminated from this process because this technology is not meant to provide social media monitoring. This is not to tell you whether a particular topic got 500 mentions or 500,000 mentions, because we don't want you to get mired in the volume mentions of a particular word. What's more important is the culture that surrounds that topic, both in terms of the direct and indirect relationships that people create in consumer culture around what you're searching for. Next, you'll get a whole bunch of sociodemographics. The topic universe is really represented in the number of topics here analyzed. So in the case of probiotics, there are 76,600 topics in that topic universe. These topics share 200,000 connections amongst them. And the data we're analyzing comes from 63,000 people over the course of a year. Okay, next we move on to the core addressable market and the adoption curve. The core market really refers to the core engaged portion of the market. It's quantifying and estimating how many people are engaged on the topic, either directly or indirectly, but engaged deeply on the topic of probiotics today. And that's only 5 million people in America. The addressable market basically tells you, okay, if you look at the ethnographic DNA of probiotics as it exists today, or the culture that surrounds probiotics as it exists today, what is the maximum market potential for that permutation of attitudes and motivations and values and fears? That's really what it's telling us. And that's only 19 million people in America. So if you're in the probiotics business, what you'll realize by running this search is that the cultural context around probiotics needs to change if we want to grow that marketplace beyond a certain ceiling. The adoption curve quite simply maps that topic on the Everett-Rogers curve and tells us what percentage of the addressable market a particular topic has reached in its maturity. So in this case, it's reached 27% of the addressable market, and it sits in the early majority in the addressable market. So it's just hitting mainstream, but in the context of the addressable market. And that's important to understand, because sometimes you might see a trend that looks mature, but the addressable market is so tiny. Sure, it's maturing within its addressable market, but it's still an important indicator of the fact that something is quite niche. Next, you'll get the sociodemographics. What I have turned on here are national averages so that you can actually compare the national average and index it against the numbers you were getting. By pulling out this right slider here on the right side, you can actually turn that off by just clicking that button. And also you'll notice that on this right side, you'll also have access to our FAQ site as well as our training videos. FAQ site is really important because it's got all the detailed definitions of all these things that you'll see in your dashboard within MotivBase. And then next we move on to the ethnographic DNA surrounding probiotics. The tip I usually recommend for our clients is to first start to look for logical connections between motivations and attitudes. So here I can see a logical connection between this motivation of proving that my lifestyle keeps me strong or that I want to regain control over my health. And then I can see some logical connections to attitudes like scientific approach to food is better, knowledge is power, truth comes from science, life has limitless potential. What you'll realize is as you start to find some of these logical connections, you'll almost start to see a strategy emerge in front of you pretty much right away. And then you'd move on to the fears and the values and similarly do the same thing, look for these logical connections, and you'll start to see a very detailed narrative and quite a simple strategy start to emerge that tells us of what is driving the market and then what obviously you can do in order to continue to drive that market or to change it if that is of interest. Next, we move on to the brands and influencers section. It's important to understand that the brands and influencers aren't just the top brands and influencers in the context of probiotics. They're the top brands and influencers in the context of probiotics and in the context of the ethnographic DNA that defines probiotics in the time frame you've searched for. What does that mean? We're actually scraping the content that these brands and influencers provide, and we're mapping their own ethnographic DNA and then matching that against the ethnographic DNA of the term you've searched for. What this is doing is it's allowing you to look at those brands and influencers that actually speak the same language and speak through the same values and the same motivations that drives the consumer around probiotics today. It's a great way to discover brands and influencers that we might not have heard of or traditionally have dismissed because they're too small for us to care about. But now what we're realizing is, no, there's something about the way they talk that is actually of immense value to the brand and to communications and so on. And then lastly, you'll see the article section where we detail out relevant contextual articles around the topic you searched for. Again, it's handy because in a lot of cases, if you're building out a deck to make an argument for or against something, articles are a great way to sort of close the loop on that argument. It's also a great way to understand the sentiment around a topic by reading some of these articles, as well as getting ideas on other related searches you might want to run or ways to further drill down on your searches and so on, which I will cover in some subsequent videos here. That I think gives us sort of a basic lay of the land. Two other features I'll mention is there's a download button here that allows you to download a PowerPoint presentation. There's a save button that allows you to save the workspace. And then there's this plus sign. And I'll get into that a little bit more in another video. But if you click that, you can actually add another workspace and run another search and compare searches and so on. Again, I'll leave that for another video. This completes session 1. Thanks again for watching.